Hello learners, welcome to our channels. In this tutorials, we learn about the employment practices in India with respect to Japan and European countries, USA and China. So this is the unit 5, this content. Okay, so let's come on this. So we are briefly the 10 key area that the foreign employer should pay the attention to when the handling. So I will briefly explain in a one by one. So what about that point? As a India integrated into the global markets, foreign firms entering the country have to strike a balance between the following their own best prices while the adapting to local the norms, having a firm's understanding for a legal requirement in the country. The good human resources HR practices that streamlines organizational functions and ensure the low attrition rate while the growing the workflow capability and driving the value within an organization. A company with policy, pay, and the important role of the legal factor. These are the legal factors we are apply for in our employers. Okay, so employers. So here are the we briefly discuss the 10 key area of the foreign employers should pay the attention to when handling. First, employment contract. What is the employment contract? India does not the mandate a written employment contract. However, it is the advisable for a company to establish at least basic contract to ensure the easy establishment of a term and the condition of the employment. What is the term and condition? The India employment law are the derives from the context framework and then employer must negotiate the carefully. Apart from the labor law, there are the industrial law, the Company Act and the Company Act 1872 the govern employment condition in India. The both the state of a government and create the enforce the law of the pre-training to employment in India, which can complicate the complication of the HR manager should keep the themselves update and develop the employment contract in the accordance with those of the prevent of the future legal complication. Okay, so this what is the wages? What about the wages? Under the minimum wages act 1948, all the employer in the organization sector must provide the basic cost of the living to employee category specified within the act. The company should ensure that the employment contract consider this while deciding the for the employee. The Equal Reimbursement Act 1976 moderates the non-discrimination for the payment of wages to men and women, while the Payment of Wages Act 1936 order to terminally disbursement of the wages to employee. Payment of wages below the minimum wages limit amount to forced labor and the provided under the labor and labor system act 1976. This is the wages regarding. And the third point about the termination of employment. What are the act and the rules and regulation for any company will apply for any employee? Okay, so this is the our employee in India may only be terminated as per the term and condition within their employment contract. However, the company should note that all the employee must adhere to the federal and state labor law. When laying off the terminating worker, the condition drafted the company contract cannot be suppressed. This legal status. Finally, the termination without notice is provided in India. Termination provides very function and length of the employee. What about the maternity and the paternity leave? The maternity benefits amended the Act 2017 apply all the shops and the any establishment of any employee over the 10 worker. Okay, you if you have a 10 worker in your company, so this act will be applied under the Act 26 weeks of paid of the leaves available for the women for the first two children and 12 weeks subsequently. Okay, company employ more than 50 people must also provide this type of services. The paternity leave bills the 2070 a set uh, of discussion in the next preliminary sessions. However, is significant the number of organizations, especially the foreign companies like the Microsoft already include the mutually decided the paternity leaves and clauses within their company policy. These practices have been well received by the Indian force workforce and good human resource management. Okay, this is the fifth point: prevention of a sexual harassment in the workplace. This is the Indian government has about the safety of the women in the workplace at the forefront of a lawmaking. An international companies committee must be set of a all the organizations must more than 10 employee in accordance with the norm and leads with the sexual harassment of a woman and workplace prevention provision and the in Act 2013. Okay, all the companies should be actively pursued evidences and the receipts immediately. The guarantee of the employee safety company must be draft the appropriate HR policy within the firm and the ensure they are clearly communicated to all the personals. HR personnel should organize the workshops and sanitization programs and ensure the communication to promotes the organizational culture and then provided for the fair and safe working environment for the all the its employees. Okay, and the sixth point is the very important: public holiday and the work weeks. In India, in observed the three national holiday public day in the January 26, Independence Day, August 15, and the Gandhi Jayanti, October 2. On this day, all institutions, whether the public or private, must be retain, remain closed. Government approval is necessary for any organization to function on these days. Only the certain establishments such as the factory industry where the work process in the considered to be the country and the hospitals and travel agency to are allowed to operate the 365 day and 24-hour subject to the additional wages and staff daily for the worker on these days. Additionally, firm the must inform the annual listed of the holiday and weekly off and available to employee to each year. The number of the leaves and category leaves must be ideally to explain in their employee contract. Okay. Many law in the India such as the Factory Act. This is the Factory Act in apply in 1948 also provide the maximum number of the work hour and the amount of the overtimes wages to be paid to be the labor employed. Okay, restrictive clauses in the employment contracts. This is the seventh point. This is a very important. Employees should not note that including the restrictive clauses into the contract might be enforceable throughout the India courts and the Contract Act the 1872 necessary the fundamental right to all the citizen to carry and over the professional trade and business, the non-competence and the non-disclosure, the non-socialism and the great garden leaves and the clauses for the examples. Okay, and this is the 8 gratuity and the provident fund. This is a very important. The payment of the gratuity act 1972 provide the gratuity of the guidelines for the gratuity owned for the an employee, the number of year to services of the employee in the criteria for deciding the amount of a gratuity owned and the payment by the company is obligated by the law, whereas the minimum amount more may be approved and must be given by an employee in case of the following circumstances. First, retirement, resignation, disablement due to the accident or illness, and death of the employee, gratuity paid to employee nominee. However, an employee is dismissed for the provision criminal and the moral reason, and no gratuity is owed to him. Okay. Similarly, the Employee Provident Fund Organization of the India, EPFO, Employee Provident Fund Organization of India, EPFO, oversees and regulate the Employee Provident Fund, EPF. This is the very important EPF. Under these schemes, the employer and employee both contribute an equal amount to fund every month, which is essential to employee and certain point in the career. The EPF scheme is mandatory for the salary below 15,000 and then US dollars 220, and the voluntary therefore after retirement. Ninth, the very impact of the digitalization. What is the meaning of the impact? The workplaces and the becoming the increasingly virtual form of the employee, both the retire equal and real-time employment analysis to improve the critical efficiency within the organization. The scope of a work of the HR department has expanded to include the usage of the digital technology to provide this information throughout the app and in-house the database, especially the service and consultancy sector. This including the usage of the online application, the process of the such retirement, learning and development, and even day-to-day the administration. The HR department should maintain the regularly interact with these digital platform to ensure the efficiency to talent, the equalization and management as the well communication with the all the company stakeholder. And then next point is the adaptive work culture. This is the very important. Okay, the job seeker of the India moving away from the traditional work mode such as the 9 to 5 time patterns and holistic view of the building career. Organizations are also gradually incorporated the ideas of the work life and balancing their corporation culture. Okay, so the adaptive and standardized the HR department are key of improving these organization value, fostering balancing between the employee satisfaction and productivity. Working condition in India, multinational companies are also changing to incorporate the flexible time. This is the very important. For a flexible time, you can do your work, okay, in your company. Work from the home option into the employment contract to boost employee retention and loyalty. If you have any troubles, you cannot go for office, so you can take a permission from your company to work from home. So this is the your policy from the government from India. Okay, so this is the applies for this 10 key. Thanks for watching my video.